public administration. I hope I'm audible to you. I'm audible to you, all of you?
Yes, Miss Lavanya, please carry on.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Is the screen visible to you, all of you?
Yes, it is visible, Lavanya.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So, public administration generally means the service to the people rendered by a government agency, and it is the result of evolutionary process which can be viewed from two distinct perspectives: as an activity and as a subject of study or intellectual discipline. As an activity, it is as old as the social life. A peep into the history reveals that public administration as a distinct activity can be traced from the ancient river civilizations of Egypt, China, India, and Mesopotamia, the earliest cradles of civilization. So the system of centralized recruitment, bureaucratization, administration evolved by Egypt, and adoption of system of civil service recruitment through competitive examinations by China and evidence in this direction. So in the cities of Greece and republics and kingdoms of India also evolve their well-developed systems of administration. However, the chief feature of medieval feudal society was anarchic decentralization in administration. It was followed by the rise of national monarchies in France, England, and Russia. So their expansionist and warlike policies led to the increase in the size of establishments, which in turn resulted into ministries and departments. Further, the growth of democracy changed the very nature of administrative setup along with the increase in the revolution, made the organization and methods of administration more complex. Subsequently, the upheavals caused by World War I and II gave rise to the problems of reconstruction and rehabilitation, and it became imperative for the administration to solve them. The economic crisis, such as depression and inflation, necessitated remedial measures by the administration. So, all these developments necessitated administrative interference in the entire life of society and thereby increasing the field of its activity. So, it would not be out of place to mention here that the World War One, that the administration was basically the national in character, but after it became international mainly due to the advent of rapid means of transport and communication. Now let us see the rise of study of public administration. Public administration as an activity is as old as civilized life, but as a field of study, it's of recent origin. It emerged during the closing years of 19th century. A pertinent question arises in this regard that can such an important activity continue for a long time without having substantial theoretical base? So the answer lies in the close examination of the facts which reveal that it did had a theoretical base as a part of related branches of knowledge like politics, ethics, and law in different societies and remained so for a considerable long time. For example, Hindu epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata deal with administrative ideas along with political. Smrtis present a vivid exposition of judicial administration. So far as Hindu treatises on politics like the Kausalya Arthashastra are concerned, these deal with these deal more with the administrative problems than the theoretical base of the state. The politics during the Middle Age, which is dubbed as dark period in the human history, nothing substantial happened in this regard. So in the Renaissance era, there happened Machiavelli's The Prince, which considered as a treatise on the art of government and administration. In modern times also, many scholarly works on political science and memoirs of statesmen deal extensively with administrative matters. But despite all this, there has not been clear recognition of public administration as a separate and distinct subject of study. So even the term public administration was first used for the first time in the closing years of 18th century when Hamilton contributed a paper defining the meaning and scope of discipline. Likewise, the first book on public administration, The Principles of the Administration Public, written by Charles Dean Bonin, a French scholar in 1812. So the literature on this subject remains scanty, so it can't assume the status of an independent discipline. The main reason which can be attributed to this was the lack of sufficient specialization and technically to merit its separate and independent consideration. But the Industrial Revolution has extended the scope of public administration by opening new vistas and that too in the highly technical fields. As a result, administrative process became too complex to be dealt only by professionals and skilled civil services. This gave rise to professional civil servants and the need to systematize their skill and experience into administrative codes and manuals that led to the emergence of theoretical and academic discussion on public administration as an independent discipline. Now, let us see how the discipline of public administration has evolved. I mean, how public administration from its parent discipline got a separate identity and from which period and what were the reasons or the causes that led to the led for the evolution of the discipline of public administration. So public administration as an independent and separate subject of study began in 1887 and the credit goes for this to Woodrow Wilson. In order to understand the present status of the discipline as a field of inquiry, it becomes essential to study its evolution. Many scholars and academicians dwelt upon this aspect from different perspectives. Some of them have discussed it from the point of traditions, such, such as absolutist, liberal, democratic, and Marxian, while to Golumbowski, it may be understood in terms of locus and focus. So locus is the institutional where of the field, while focus is the specialized what of the field. So on this basis, he has outlined the following four development phases of public administration. So the analytical distinction of politics from administration, the concrete distinction of politics from administration, a science of management, and the pervasive orientation toward public policy. Nicholas Henry, in his book titled Public Administration and Public Affairs, explained the evolution of public administration, keeping in view its definitional crisis, and he gave a successive five following paradigms. The politics administration dichotomy, which is from 1900 to 1926, then the principles of administration 1927 to 1937, public administration as a political science 1950 to 1970, public administration as management 1956 to 1970, and public administration as public administration from 1970 onwards. Later on, the more logical sense, the development of public administration as an academic field can be discussed through the following successive phases. That is, the first phase is the politics administration dichotomy, that is between 1887 to 1926. The principles of administration 1927 to 1937, critics of and challenges, that is from 1938 to 1958. The crisis of identity 1950 to 1970, then public administration as an independent discipline, that is from 1970 onwards. So now let us see the first phase, that is the public administration, the evolution of public administration, the first phase. That is the public administration is both a governmental activity. So these are the five stages of public administration. So we are in the first stage of public administration. So the era of politics administrative dichotomy, which runs from 1887 to 1926. It is commonly believed that Woodrow Wilson's journal article, The Study of Administration, is said to be the beginning of self-conscious development of public administration. So Woodrow Wilson is regarded as the father of public administration, originated the idea of politics administration dichotomy. The politics, public administration is only concerned with the implementation of public policies which are politically decided. Later, F.J. Goodenough, father of American public administration, elaborated Wilsonian theme of politics administration dichotomy in his book Politics Administration. He said that politics has to do with the policies and expression of the state, while the administration has to do with the execution of policies. So Woodrow Wilson was the first scholar who mainly set the tone for the early study of public administration to his essay entitled The Study of Administration, appeared in 1887, which he emphasized the necessity of developing the scientific foundations of the discipline. He originated the politics administration dichotomy, the distinction between political activity and administrative activity in public organizations, by observing that it is getting harder to run a constitution than to frame one. So Wilson was well aware that public administration was innately political in nature. In fact, while formulating his politics administration dichotomy, Wilson apparently misinterpreted some of the German literature that he read on public administration, which made him ambivalent about the discipline. Wilson's view was further continued by Frank J. Goodenough, who, in his book Politics and Administration, published in 1900, contended that there were two distinct functions of government, that are politics and administration. According to him, politics has to do with the policies or expressions of the state, while administration has to do with the execution of these policies. He explained further that the heart of his distinction lies in the classic separation of powers, which prescribes the desirability of entrusting in large measures the expression or formulation of the will of the sovereign to a different organ than is charged with executing that will. So, however, Goodno's basic distinction is not as crude as many understand. In this regard, the monolithic either in locus or focus. So the two functions are not performed in different loci. So in the beginning of 20th century, public administration started gaining popularity mainly because of the keen interest taken by scholars in the public reforms movement going on in American universities. Resultantly, a committee on practical training for public service was established in 1912 by the American Political Science Association, which recommended that professional schools were needed to train public administrators. The committee became the forerunner of the American Society for Public Administration, set up in 1939. In 1926, Leonard D. White's Introduction to the Study of Public Administration was published, which is regarded as the first book entirely devoted to the discipline. The main thrust of White's textbook was politics should not intrude on administration. Public administration is capable of becoming a value free science in its own right, and the mission of administration of economy and efficiently. Thus, White strengthened the notion of distinct politics administration dichotomy. Accordingly, whatever public administration scrutinized in the executive branch was regarded as a factual and scientific, while the study of public policy making and a related matter was left to the political scientists. So it was mainly because the emphasis was on science and fact in public administration. A foundation was laid for the later discovery of certain scientific principles of administration. The first phase of public administration, in the evolution of public administration, was a dichotomy of politics administration dichotomy. Now we'll move on to the second phase, that is principles of administration. The second stage in the development of public administration emphasized principles approach to administration. It was also marked by the tendency of reinforce the earlier ideas of public administration dichotomy. Such principles can be derived through scientific research and study of the phenomena of administration. Principal approach of administration was further taken by Henry Fayol, Gallic, Wick, Mooney, and Rayleigh. Gallic presented postpop, which was meant to remind seven essential functions, that is, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, budgeting. The advocates of principal approach worked out a number of administrative principles such as unity of command, span of control, specialization, etc. The application of these principles, which were universal in nature, promote efficiency and economy in administration. Hence, they believe that value-free science of management can be evolved on the basis of such principles. During this phase, scholars believe that public administration is a separate activity with its own well-marked field and principles. In 1927, Willoughby's book Principles of Administration was published, in which he asserted that in administration there are certain fundamental principles of general application analogous to those characterizing any science. They could be discovered, and administrators would be expert in their work if they learned how to apply these principles. Further, efficiency in administration would be increased if these principles are applied. But the very fact that the principles of administration were principles, if they were followed, they could be applied successfully in administrative settings. So later on, most significant work on relevant to this phase were MP Follett's creative experience, Fayol's industrial and general management, Mooney and Alan Wheeler's principles of organization, of all which delineated a varying number of overarching administrative principles. The landmark in the study which enhanced the prestige of the discipline was the publication of Luther Gallick's and Linda Lurwitz's papers on the science of administration. According to these scholars, the general thesis of this paper is that there are principles which can be arrived at inductively from the study of human organization, which should govern arrangements for human associations of any kind. Further, they propounded the famous concept of post-pop, final expression of these principles. So, public administration touched its zenith, and this phase is regarded as the golden era in the evolution of public administration. So, scientific management, the lack of focus, if not perhaps the sharpening new focus of public administration during this period, made it evident within the university community. Scholars who identified with the study of public administration nonetheless found it useful to establish the American Society of Public Administration, which continues to function as a nation's primary association of scholars and professionals of public administration as the sponsoring organization of the field's premier journal, Public Administration Review. So it symbolized the public administration conscious need to become a professional and a discipline. So now we'll look at the third stage, that is the era of challenge. So in the second stage, we have seen the principles of administration. Second stage, and the third stage, which starts from 1938 to 1947. During this period, the first two paradigms, politics administration dichotomy and principles, were attacked and rejected. It is argued that there is no clear distinction between politics and administration. The behaviorists argued that human behavior is more important than the ideal structure of organization or principles of administration. Consequently, the study of human behavior and groups in organization have become a significant in public administration. So, behaviorists like Alton Mayo, Chester Bernard, Herbert Simon, Abraham Maslow, Mark Greger works on the human behavior reflected the working nature of public and private administration. So, in the very next year, the mainstream public administration was challenged with the publication of Chester Bernard's The Functions of Executive. The challenge came basically in two forms. First, rejection of the idea of public administration dichotomy, and second, principles of public administration lacking its scientific validity. A book entitled Elements of Public Administration, edited by Fritz Molstein, was one of the major volumes to question the assumption that politics and administration could be uh, could be dichotomized. It is argued that administration cannot be separated from politics because of its political nature. Further, administration is not only concerned with the implementation of political policy decisions but also plays an important role in their formulation. According to Nicholas Henry, the rejection of the politics administration dichotomy was a huge intellectual shift that fundamentally changed the nature of the field for decades and way diminished it. The second challenge was that there could be no such thing as the principles of administration. In 1946, Herbert Simon gave a foreshadowing of his administrative behavior in an article entitled Proverbs of Administration, published in Public Administration Review. The most formidable dissection of principal notion appeared in 1947 when Simon's Administrative Behavior, a study of decision making in an administrative organization, was published. In this book, Simon showed that every principle of administration, there was a counter principle, thus rendering the whole idea of principles redundant. He advocated the behavioral approach to public administration to make it more scientific discipline. He focused upon decision making as the alternative to the principles approach. The science of administration, three problems. So according to there were three problems for the principles of public administration. That is, the place of normative values was made clear. The nature of man in the area of public administration is better understood, and his conduct is more predictable. And there is a body of comparative studies which it may be possible to discover principles and generalities that transcend national boundaries and peculiar historical experiences. So the ultimate effects of Simon's and related critics appearing in the late 1940s was to bury the belief that principles of administration, public or otherwise, could be discovered in the same sense that laws of science and nature could be. Thus, by mid-century, the two defining pillars of public administration, the public administration dichotomy and the principles of administration, has been abandoned. So in the next phase, we have the crisis of identity, which starts from 1948 to 1970. As a as public administration as a political science or public administration as management. So when the public administration principles and its dichotomy with the politics administration was challenged in the third stage, later on, there was a crisis of identity for the discipline, whether the public administration should be treated as a separate single discipline of public administration or it should be treated as a part of public administration, what we used to learn earlier, that is public administration as political science. So there was a dilemma between on the subject, on the identity of the subject. So the fourth stage, which is the crisis of identity, from which started from 1948 to which ended in 1970. So the first is public administration as a political science from 1950 to 1970. Many scholars in public administration responded to identify crisis by returning to the fold of mother discipline. The linkage between public administration and political science was re-established. The net result of this merge is loss of identity for public administration. So the net result of this, so there was no identity of public administration, and and all the and more of the Many of the scholars of public administration has moved back to the original mother discipline of public administration, that is public political science. And the other view was public administration is management, which was from 1956 to 1970. During this period, they began searching for an alternative option for public administration. They found management option as best alternative. The management option gave public administration independence to grow and develop its own. It made possible the emergence of self-aware. So the discipline was in quandary and suffered from the crisis of identity due to the abandonment of politics administration, dichotomy, and principles of public administration. So some of the scholars of public administration they reacted to the crisis by re-establishing the linkages of public administration first with political science and then with management. So it can be said that most of the writings of public administration in 1950s spoke of the field as an emphasis and area of interest or even as a synonym of political science. During this period, two developments took place: the growing use of the case study method and the rise and fall of comparative and development administration. The emergence of the case study method reflected the response of public administration to the behavioral revolution going on in that time in social sciences. So far as the rise of comparative and development administration is concerned, it may be pointed out that prior to the abandonment of the principles of administration, it was assumed that cultural factors did not make any difference in administrative settings. But later on, scholars like administration on one part of the globe quite are different on the other part. So as a result of this revised thinking, the study of comparative public administration started in universities and colleges. However, the real impetus came in 1960 when comparative public administration group was founded, which received the liberal grants from Ford Foundation. The foundation's emphasis on the third world led to semi-autonomous subfield of the comparative public administration called development administration. So the most notable contribution in this year was that of Rick. The comparative public administration from its origin emphasized upon theory building and to seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So the thirst of comparative public administration led to its downfall so much that in 1973 the comparative administration group was abandoned. So due to their second class status in the discipline of political science, some of the scholars of the public administration began to search for an alternative. They found the same in management, which sometimes called administrative sciences. So they argued that organization theory should be the overarching focus of public administration. A number of developments led to the selection of management, with emphasis on organization theory as a paradigm of public administration. In 1956, the important journal Administrative Science Quarterly was founded on the premise that the distinction between the business and institutional administration is false and that administration is administration. Management provided a focus and not a locus. It offered techniques which are highly sophisticated techniques that required expertise and specialization. But in what institutional setting that expertise should be applied is undefined. So, regarding the relative impact of political science and management on public administration, Nicholas Henry has observed that if political science was profoundly influenced on the evolution and underlying values of public administration, management was less so. So, in many ways, the impact of management on public administration was more positive. But in both situations, the linkages either with political science or management, the essential thrust was one of the public administration losing its identity. So that's why this phase of public administration is known as a period of identity of crisis of the discipline of public administration. So now we'll move on to the fifth stage, that is the public administration as public administration from 1970. 1 to till date. So in this stage of its evolution, public administration identified itself with policy science. Public administration has showed much interest in policy making process and measurement of policy outputs, as well as political economy and other related areas of public policy, due to which public administration has gained social relevance in 1980 and 1990s. There was a drastic change in public administration and its development. New public management, good governance has emerged in the study of public administration. So the discipline of public administration was its slowest epic, showing seeds of its renaissance. Couple of factors complementary to each other contributed in this process. So the first was the development of interdisciplinary programs focusing upon policy science. In this regard, there are three distinct inter-theoretical linkages, that is politics administration, union, economic administration, confluence, organization theory, administration intermixing can be identified. The second was the emergence of new public administration, an outcome of the first Minnebrook Conference held in 1968, sponsored by Dwight Waldo, which put more emphasis on values, replacing the traditional goals of efficiency and effectiveness. Besides, it laid stress on relevance, social equity, and change. The overall focus of new public administration movement was to make administration less generic and more public, less descriptive and more prescriptive, less institution oriented and more client oriented, less neutral and more normative. But it should be no less scientific all the time. The above twin intellectual currents compel the scholars of public administration to think in terms of academic autonomy by serving their ties both political science and management. Thus, this made the public administrators proud as they started asserting that their profession is useful to the society. So all these developments led to the rise of an independent field of public administration. In this backdrop, National Association Schools of Public Affairs and Administration, established, which comprises of institutions of higher learning of different countries, offering course on major public administration programs. It was worth mentioning that over the years, the efforts of NASPA has led to the increase in the number of separate departments of public administration considerably. Even more and more political science departments are joining this association. Likewise, the number of public administration programs which were housed in the Department of Management or School of Business Administration was declined noticeably. So in the late 1990s, the new public management theory advocated by David Osborne and Gabler in the book Reinventing Government emphasized the use of private societies models, organizational ideas and values to improve the service oriented of the public sector. It treated individuals as customers or clients rather than as citizens. The public choice approach of Vincent Ostrom underlined the fact that in an era of state minimalism has started in the 21st century, which demands small but effective government from public administration. And the trend which can observe is that the distinction between administration and management is becoming irrelevant. The management is broadly concerned with industries and private enterprises, while administration refers to government machinery. Now, when government itself is conducting industrial and commercial activities through public enterprise and private enterprise in turn, or adopting more and more bureaucratic system, and public and private sectors are collaborating with each other in the wake of privatization, the difference between administration and is important element of the state and concrete form of government is administration. So this is all about the evolution of public administration from the dichotomy to the to public administration as public administration as of what we are learning today. Now let us move on to the relationship of public administration with other social sciences. So, relationship of public administration as a systematic study on various aspects of human actions in society. The social sciences include sociology, psychology, anthropology, economics, political science, public administration, and history. Since all these disciplines study man in society, they are interdisciplinary fields sharing connection with one another. So, public administration is comprehensive interdisciplinary approach that draws on knowledge sources across the social sciences. Its increasing interdisciplinary nature implies that it draws upon the social sciences and applies its study the knowledge, insights, techniques, and tools developed by them. Therefore, it's important that the person who wishes to study public administration should have some knowledge of other social sciences and its relationship with them. In this study, we'll examine public administration relationship with political science, history, economics, sociology, psychology, law. So first, we'll see public administration and history. So history is concerned with the study of social progress of mankind, everything mankind has thought, done, and achieved. So it is a study of the past events, movements, their supplies valuable material for the study of public administration. Its subject matter includes economic, social developments, religion, intellectual and artistic movement, as well as the growth and decline of states, their organization, functions, achievements, and failures. So, history is the laboratory of human experiences. All administrative experience of history or the subject matter of our experiments. So, the study of administrative system of a country would not be complete without a proper glimpse of a historical background. Now, the public administration. Now we'll move on to the other social science, that is relationship of public administration with political science. So, political science is the study of state and government. It deals with power and influence and authority. So, public administration is closely connected with the political science as political science is the mother discipline of public administration. So, whatever of the public administration has been carved out of the political science so that there's a distinction between the policy making and policy implementation. So, public administration is a specialized study grew out of concern within politics that laws can be applied economically and efficiently in a manner consistent with the legislative intent. So, the main areas of study which provides linkages between both the social sciences, these include public policy, studies, constitutional law, delegated legislation, government budgeting, local government, and so on. There's also an interrelationship between both departments. In India, where political science department in colleges and universities offer courses in public administration. So the top bureaucrats in public administration play a vital role in policy making and policy execution with the political executives in determining policies under delegated legislation. So it demonstrates that understanding of political science is the key to understanding of public administration. So next we'll move on to the relationship of public administration and law. So what is the relationship of public administration and what is the law and how both the discipline is both the disciplines are interrelated or what is the relationship of public administration with law. So public administration is closely related to law. Public administration has increased necessarily function within the framework provided by law. So various laws such as constitutional laws, administration law tend to influence the operation of public administration. So the institutional structure and the powers and functions of the administrative bodies and the limitations are determined by law. Law tells an administrator what to do but fixes the limit of authority. He must act within such legal powers. The main function of public administration is a detailed and systematic execution of public law. Public administrators should have a detailed knowledge of the prevailing legal system. A public administrator is not only the enforcer of the law but also the builder of the law. Therefore, public administrators, on the basis of their experience, suggest new laws and amend them. Next, we'll move on to the relationship of public administration and sociology. Sociology is the study of society. In its wider sense, it studies social order, social change, social problems, associations, and institutions. Public administration deals with the management of man's administration in society, which has recently become closely associated with sociology. Demock says administration exists in social settings and the pattern of administration is a demand by the society but through sensitive leadership. Administrator is not merely an executive, but he is a social engineer helping the society to fulfill itself. So, public administration exists for a society and is concerned with the fulfillment of security of life, health, education, etc. In modern administrative state, even such matters like family, marriage are affected by public administration in terms of welfare, social security, and taxation, etc. An administrator who is engaged in social change is required to understand the cultural, social background of the society in which he functions. He should also diagnose the society and prepare the ground for dispelling wrong values, beliefs, customs, and traditions of the people. This will enable the administration to bring desired social change and economic development. So now let us see what is the relationship of public administration with economics. So economics deals as, or you can say economics is a study of wealth which deals with the people and choices they make. So economics deals with the acceptance of human behavior which rises with the scarcity of means to achieve a given end. According to Adam Smith's definition, economics is an act of managing the resources of the people and of the government. This clearly brings out the close relationship between the two social sciences. Common areas of study include public finance, budgeting, economic planning, management of enterprises, and so on. The formulation and implementation of government development plans and policies are to be evaluated in terms of socio-economic consequences. Thus, economic planning brings about public administration and economics closer. Public administration is dominated by economic problems such as poverty, unemployment, inflation, depression, etc. So public administrators should have the knowledge of economics in solving the economic problems. Now we'll move on to the relationship of public administration and psychology. So psychology is variously defined as the study of mind, study of behavior, or the study of man interacting with his social and physical environment. It studies different aspects of human behavior and their determinants. Public administration is related to psychology because both are concerned with work and worker. So after Second World War, psychologists became interested in the organization process and problems. So psychology also developed the training techniques as well as public relations. Yeah, as well as public relations, public publicity or public systems of the government. Psychologists also study the organizational problems, particularly in designing and organizing work itself. It deals with the concepts of efficient work utilization and coordination, job analysis, motivation, and moral, social, and psychological factors. So Elton Mayo, Bernard, Abraham Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor made major contributions in the study of human behavior. Psychology has thus made a major contribution to the study of understanding of administrative process as well as to the study of development and techniques of public administration. So this is all about the relationship of public administration with other disciplines. Hope you understand the public administration uh, relationship with other disciplines. So if you have any doubt, you can post in the chat box.